Remember when your dad would tell you to take off, eh? When you were being a pest? Or when your mom would say something was right out of her, when it was really good? The way Canadians talked in the 1970s was different, and if you lived through it, these sayings are burned into your memory. Between the 60s and 70s, Canadians had their own way of speaking that made us distinctly Canadian. These weren't just words, they were part of our identity, our humor, and our everyday life. Hit that subscribe button now because number 5 on this list is going to make you laugh out loud with how much we actually said it back then. Starting at 20, going for a rip meant taking the car out for a drive, usually with no particular destination in mind. Your dad would say, "Let's go for a rip on Sunday afternoons," and you'd pile into the station wagon and drive around town or out to the country. It wasn't about getting somewhere, it was about the drive itself. Going for a rip meant freedom, exploration, and usually stopping for ice cream somewhere along the way. At 19, giver meant to go all out, to put maximum effort into whatever you were doing, whether it was shoveling snow, playing hockey, or finishing your homework. When someone said giver, they meant don't hold back. It was encouragement, a challenge, and a very Canadian way of saying do your best. You'd hear it at hockey rinks, construction sites, and dinner tables across the country. Number 18, calling someone a keener meant they were overly eager, trying too hard to impress the teacher or the boss. In school, the keener was the kid who always had their hand up, who finished assignments early, who volunteered for everything. It wasn't exactly a compliment. Being called a keener meant you were trying too hard, and in 1970s Canada, trying too hard wasn't cool. At 17, a 2-4 was a case of 24 beers, the standard purchase for any weekend gathering. Your dad would say he was picking up a 2-4 before the hockey game or the family barbecue. It was understood that a 2-4 was the right amount for a social occasion, not too much, not too little. The term was so common that May 24th weekend became known as May 2-4 weekend, a perfect double meaning. Number 16, ordering a double-double at Tim Hortons meant coffee with 2 creams and 2 sugars. This phrase became so ingrained in Canadian culture that you didn't need to explain it. Walk into any Tim Hortons, say double-double, and they knew exactly what you meant. It was the standard order, the default coffee, the taste that defined Canadian mornings. At 15, a toque was your winter hat, and every Canadian owned at least 3. Americans called them beanies or knit caps, but in Canada, it was a toque, and that was that. Your mom would yell, "Put your toque on," before you went outside in winter, and you'd stuff it in your pocket the moment you were out of sight, because wearing a toque wasn't cool, even if your ears were freezing. Number 14. Runners were what you called your sneakers or athletic shoes. You'd ask your mom for new runners for gym class, and she'd take you to Canadian Tire or Woolco to pick out a pair. Americans called them sneakers or tennis shoes, but in Canada, they were runners, and the term made perfect sense because that's what you did in them. At 13, the hydro bill was your electricity bill, a uniquely Canadian term that confused everyone else. Your parents would complain about the hydro bill going up in winter when the heat was running constantly. It didn't matter if your electricity came from hydropower or not, it was still the hydro bill, and every Canadian understood exactly what that meant. Number 12, the chesterfield was your couch or sofa, a term that defined Canadian living rooms. Your mom would tell you to sit on the chesterfield when company came over, or to get off the chesterfield when you were jumping on it. The term was so common that when it started disappearing in the 80s and 90s, replaced by couch and sofa, it felt like losing a piece of Canadian identity. At 11, a serviette was your napkin, another distinctly Canadian term. Your mom would set the table with serviettes, not napkins. Restaurants had serviette dispensers, not napkin holders. It was a small linguistic difference that marked you as Canadian, and using the word napkin felt oddly American and wrong. Number 10, a parkade was a parking garage, a term used mainly in Western Canada. You'd tell someone to meet me at the parkade when you were going downtown. The term was practical and descriptive, and it made perfect sense to anyone who used it, even if the rest of Canada called it a parking garage. At 9, pencil crayons were what you called colored pencils, and every kid had a set. Your mom would buy you a box of pencil crayons for school, and you'd spend hours coloring with them. Americans called them colored pencils, but in Canada, they were pencil crayons, and the term was so natural you didn't realize it was uniquely Canadian until much later. Number 8, asking for the washroom instead of bathroom or restroom was the Canadian way. You'd ask, "Where's the washroom?" in restaurants, stores, or someone's house. It was polite, practical, and distinctly Canadian. Americans would ask for the bathroom or restroom, but Canadians knew that washroom was the proper term. At 7, pop was what you called soft drinks, not soda or Coke. You'd ask your mom if you could have a pop, and she'd say yes, if you'd been good. Orange Crush, Coke, Pepsi, they were all pop. The term was universal across Canada, and calling it soda marked you as American or trying too hard to sound sophisticated. Number 6, a Mickey was a small bottle of liquor, usually 375 milliliters, perfect for sneaking into events. Teenagers would hide a Mickey in their jacket to sneak into dances or hockey games. Your uncle might have a Mickey in his glove compartment for emergencies. It was the perfect size for portability and discretion, and every Canadian knew exactly what you meant when you mentioned a Mickey. And here we are at number 5, the phrase that perfectly captured 1970s Canadian culture, "Going out for a rip, are you, bud?" This wasn't just asking if someone was going for a drive. It was a whole conversation in one sentence. It combined going for a rip with "are you, bud?", creating the most Canadian phrase imaginable. You'd say it to your neighbor as he backed out of his driveway, to your friend as he grabbed his car keys, to anyone who looked like they were heading out. The phrase was friendly, casual, and so distinctly Canadian that it became a joke, a meme before memes existed. It captured the way Canadians talked to each other, that easy familiarity and good-natured curiosity about what everyone was up to. Saying it now brings back memories of neighborhoods where everyone knew everyone, where you'd chat over the fence, where "are you, bud?" was how you greeted friends and strangers alike. At 4, calling something a beauty meant it was excellent, impressive, or exactly what you needed. Your dad would look at a new tool and say, "That's a beauty." Or your friend would show you his new bike and you'd say, "Beauty, eh?" It was approval, admiration, and satisfaction all rolled into one word. A beauty goal in hockey, a beauty day for fishing, a beauty of a car. The term applied to everything good. Number 3, calling someone a hoser was the ultimate 1970s Canadian insult that wasn't really an insult. The term came from hockey, from the guy who had to hose down the ice after the game, the loser's job. But by the 70s, it meant someone who was a bit of a goof, not too bright, but harmless. Bob and Doug McKenzie made it famous in the early 80s, but Canadians were calling each other hosers long before that. Coming in at number 2, "Take off, eh?" was how you told someone to go away or stop bothering you. Your older brother would say it when you were being a pest. Your dad would say it when you were asking too many questions. It wasn't mean, it was just Canadian for "leave me alone." The "a" at the end softened it, made it friendly, even when you were being told to scram. And here we are at number 1. "Right out of her" meant something was completely gone, finished, or used up. Your dad would look at the empty beer fridge and say, "We're right out of her," meaning there was nothing left. Your mom would check the sugar canister and say, "Right out of her," meaning she needed to buy more. It was a phrase that perfectly captured the Canadian way of understating things, of making even running out of something sound casual and not worth worrying about. The phrase was so common, so deeply embedded in Canadian speech, that you didn't even think about it. It just rolled off the tongue naturally, and everyone understood exactly what you meant. Running out of gas? Right out of her. Finished your homework? Right out of her. No more coffee? Right out of her. There you have it. 20 forgotten sayings that every Canadian used back in the 1970s. These weren't just words. They were part of our identity, our humor, and the way we connected with each other. The way we talked back then marked us as Canadian, separated us from Americans, and created a shared language that everyone from Victoria to St. John's understood. When these sayings started disappearing, replaced by more generic terms or American phrases, we lost a little piece of what made us distinctly Canadian. Which saying hits your nostalgia button hardest? Which one do you still use today? Drop your memories in the comments below and tell us if there are any sayings we missed that deserve to be remembered. And if this trip through 1970s Canadian language triggered some nostalgia, hit that like button and subscribe, because we've got more stories about the Canada we remember, the one that's slowly disappearing but lives on in our memories and the way we talk. Thanks for watching, and remember, we might not say these things anymore, but they're still part of who we are, eh?